So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to KMag. My name is Anne Marie Reed, and I'm the co-chair. I want to say before we get started, we've had a lot of requests for people who can't make it at 7:30. If we could either write notes or, which I did at the last meeting, but this time we're actually having Gita Suggs has offered to videotape it for us. So just to let you know, it is being videotaped. I don't know how we're going to make it available yet. We're going to figure that out. But just so you're aware that any comments and such are going to be made public. But this is really just to make it easier for people who aren't able to be here. I do have an agenda that I've sent around. So I guess we'll just go ahead and get started with the principal's report with Ms. Lowe.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to see a full house this morning. I did want to mention a couple of things to you that I learned yesterday at a principal's meeting for the district. I'm also sitting on a district-wide committee on planning our new high school plans. So you know how House Bill 5 has changed the graduation plans for our students. All of our middle school students will be impacted by this change. So there are now going to be 3 levels. We had 3 levels before. So we'll have 3 levels of high school diplomas. It'll be called foundation, a foundation with an endorsement, and then a distinguished. Before, the distinguished was tied into AP classes and things like that. Now the only difference between a foundation with endorsement and distinguished is literally Algebra 2, the requirement to take Algebra 2. So it is totally different than it used to be. So one of the things that the district has to decide, and that'll be the school board deciding, and they're getting input right now, and we'll take it to our CAC. I just wanted you to be aware this discussion is going on, is what will be the default plan for Austin ISD. Right now the default plan is the recommended plan. And so if a student needs to go down from the recommended plan, the parent has to sign off on it and the principal of the school to go down to that minimum plan. So what will the default plan be with this new program? Should it be the distinguished or should it be the foundation with endorsements? But right now we haven't gotten a lot of direction from TEA because they have not yet identified. To get the endorsement, you have to have an advanced level class in certain areas, and they haven't yet identified what those advanced classes are. So until we get some guidance on that, it's kind of difficult to make some decisions. So they're getting input. So they were getting input yesterday from high school principals and middle school principals as kind of what we thought about whether we should continue requiring as a district that half credit of speech, that half credit of health that TEA no longer requires. Also that additional half credit of PE health, and speech. So that's a discussion that's going on right now, and it will impact students starting next year. And I just wanted y'all to be aware that that is happening within the district. And really, the school year is off to an amazingly smooth start. I know that we've been making our schedule changes for elective change requests, but other than that, I don't really have anything else to report at this time.
Okay, well, thank you. Ms. Griffin?
Okay, well, one of the things I was going to mention is that schedule changes we think are just about done. There may be 1 or 2 left, but other than that, it's pretty much done. We've had a change in the magnet office. Emily Avila left. She had another opportunity and decided she needed to take advantage of that. And we're really very fortunate to have Julie Carolyn subbing for it. Julie has been in the magnet office before. She subbed for us for I think about 4 or 5 months a couple of years ago. And she also knows the magnet program well. She has a child who's here now and 2 other daughters who have been here, one now in college and one in Wausau. So she knows the program. She knows a lot of the kids and knows how to schedule, which was quite wonderful. So if you see a different person in the office, or if you call the office and hear a different voice, it's probably Julie's. And I hope you'll join me in welcoming back. We are really fortunate that she came back with us. She's one of the reasons that the schedule changes seem to be about done. I wish I could talk to you about the exciting things that are happening in classrooms, and I hope that you know about those things from your kids. But I've been preoccupied with some other kinds of things. Our applications have to go to the print shop next week because we're coming up on that cycle of going out to elementary schools really quickly. The other thing that's going to the print shop that you'll be seeing in a couple weeks probably, or hearing about perhaps, is the writing manual. All of the grade levels have requested it. The teachers produced it, I think, a year or two ago, and it really helps keep things, keeps student writing in line with best practices in terms of citing things and all that. And if the students don't bring home a copy, the copies they're using them in their classrooms as reference. So, those are the kinds of things that I've been preoccupied with. And again, those aren't the kinds of things your kids know anything about. And I hope that you're enjoying hearing about what they're learning during the school day. That's all.
There's a sign-up sheet, if you haven't got it already, there should be a sign-up sheet going around.
Anybody
If you
not
just go
signed
ahead and
yet?
just sign your name up. One of the topics for today was tips for incoming parents, because I've got an 8th grader that I remember coming in as a 6th grader, and it's just a big change. And so I went ahead and we picked out some of the questions that I think are probably some of the top questions you may have. We're going to go ahead and go through them, and at the end, if you have any time, if there's still time, we'll go ahead and you can ask any additional questions. We've got, Ms. Ramberg and Ms. Lowe have lots of experience. We've also got a lot of parents here who've been here who might be able to step in and help out with some tips that we figured out. But the first question I remember was, my student has always had all A's and now they don't. How well should he or she be doing? So, I don't know, Ms. Ramberg, if you want to jump into
Sure,
that.
I'd be happy to start. We are so lucky that this is middle school, and in some respects, it doesn't count. And what I mean by it doesn't count is the grades that students get in their English, social studies, science, and a lot of the math classes don't follow them forever and ever and ever. What does follow them is they're learning how to work. They're learning how to really put forth effort. A lot of times the kids who come here, they're very able kids, but they haven't necessarily been challenged. Or they haven't had to do as much work, and sometimes there's some self-doubt that comes into play. Well, I used to be smart, now I don't seem to be smart. It really is all about effort. And so, I don't think that worrying about the grades is the thing to be asking. The thing to be asking is my child putting forth effort? And is it effective kind of effort? And that's a whole different spin, I think, on the way we've often been focused. But to me, those are the questions. I'm expecting A's, expecting B's. The thing to expect is working. And I think that's the most important thing.
I'll step in and say that one of the things that the counselor said, because we are parents and we do care about grades, when I was a 6th grade parent, she came in and she had a list of all the kids right about this time that had A's. And it was a very small list. So the grades go up and they go down. You'll see that your child will forget to turn in stuff. The teachers will work with you and will work with your child. Putting in the effort is really good. If they get a B, it may be their first B they've ever had, and it's okay. I mean, it really is. This is a pool of the smartest kids, and it's much different for a child who was always, one of the smartest kids in the class to be in a room full of them. But it's also a really awesome experience for them. I don't know if anyone else has any questions about this or comments. Liana?
Hey, thanks. I'm Eliana Abinator. I have a son in 6th grade, Lucas. A question around this is, you mentioned, Ms. Ramberg, that their grades don't follow them. Obviously, as a parent, I agree with you, and I am looking at my son putting a lot of effort and things like that, and looking to the future. Not that he's gonna go, or I don't even know what his options are, all his options are for high school, but LASA comes up a lot, and I hear a lot of kids going to LASA from here, and of course, I'd like my child to have that opportunity if that's something that, you know, will be good for him at that time. So how much do the grades in sixth, seventh, eighth affect the application to LASA?
Honestly, I have not looked at their current application, and I don't know how transparent it is in terms of grades count this much, you know, a fourth, a third, a tenth. I don't know that. I do know that any school is going to look at it, unless they have this strict point system, and my guess is if they do, it wouldn't include sixth grade, but we've got to look at the LASA applications. I don't know. Most places that don't have a firm this percent, this, you know, point system will also be looking for improvement when they look at grades. You know, colleges certainly look at grade point average, but they also look at whether students took the most challenging courses in the
Caliber of classes.
I found with my son, who's an 8th grader, is that, I mean, he's not always the most organized, but he's smart. And I said, if you can just work on your study habits and really focus on that, I really think the rest will follow. And I mean, he does every now and then have a blip, but it makes a big difference. And I think that for him, if he can just get that down, and all the kids, I mean, that's really the focus right now, is learning how to study and not necessarily, and learning how to have fun in studying, right? And so all of that together, I think, has made a huge difference for him too. So, and it kind of takes the pressure off, except for just doing it every day.
Do we have any other questions related to this specific one?
I was just gonna add that, when, Keeling, revised its application process, was it last year? It, was somewhat modeled after the LASA application. So more or less, you know, the same factors, the test, that your child took to get into Keeling, a similar, process is for LASA. So if your child got into Keeling, you know, I'd say kind of take the pressure off and tell them you're on track, you know, if you're interested in that.
And they don't ask for sixth grade. No.
It's only 8th grade grades, I think, right?
Well, I think they want seventh grade and then the first semester of 8th grade.
Oh, right, because you're.
I have a comment, if you don't mind. So I have a child in high school and a child here, and just from experience, I've kind of been through the whole cycle of, yes, my kid is gonna, you know, always do well and keep on that great trajectory. And, you know, they change in middle school, and, you know, mine kind of changed 180 degrees. And so I've kind of been through like the, I mean, how bad is this gonna get? And then kind of the acceptance that there's not, a lot of times there's not a whole lot, there was nothing I could do, really, very little, it was all up to her. And so my perspective from all that, and now, you know, a few years later, things getting better, is that middle school is a great time to have the experience of failure. When, like Ms. Ramberg said, there are no horrible consequences, and you can, you know, you have room to fix it. And to really get that feeling of what it's like to fail and what it means, what the consequences are. Maybe you have to do a whole year of the same class over. That's no fun. You know, wouldn't it have been easier to have been put forth the effort earlier? I mean, so anyway, I think it's a great chance to let them really feel it and see what it's like.
And remember that grades going down is a normal part of adolescence, period, whether or not you're at Keeling. So this is a normal part of that growing experience, is that you're going to see kids who normally make really good grades, whether they're here or not, they tend to take a dip, because what starts to take precedence over grades is your their social awareness. Sorry about that. So that's a very normal part of adolescence.
And just one other comment with that too, that take advantage of the counselors. I don't know about any of you guys, but my kids don't listen to a thing that I tell them. They just listen to everything. So you can tell them, hey, everything's fine and don't worry about it, but they'll still have that angst, and you also have it, because while we can tell you it's okay and you can expect this, you don't really know how that applies to your child. So having that third party that's not a teacher and somebody that's there to help them to go in, both for you and for your student, to have them told, don't worry, you're fine, this is not a big deal. If we need to, we can go and talk to the teacher and figure out steps. I mean, just to have that kind of laid out and to get that insight from the counselors is extremely helpful and will diffuse a lot of that anxiety, both for you and for your student, your child.
Great.
And we will have the counselors here, I think it's next week, in 2 weeks, our next meeting, we'll have them, so you get a chance to meet them, and that's a great thing to do. Marty, you have a quick question?
Yeah, I just want to also quickly say that there are some kids who continue to get straight A's here, and the problem, that's not a bad thing, but sometimes, we had a meeting last year where this place was packed because people were worried about too much homework, and come to find out that some of the children were taking hours and hours to do assignments that really didn't have to take that long. So many of us have perfectionist children, and maybe some of you are perfectionists as well.
Everyone
So
here is
kind of-
type A.
Yeah,
Just know
helping
that.
children understand it's okay, turn it in, it's fine, you don't have to, but don't stay up super late every night, you know what I mean? So it's kind of us helping them realize when enough is enough, that it's okay if they get a 90 instead of a 99 or 100, you know what I mean? So.
I'm gonna go on
Or
to
85.
the next question, which is a question I've always wondered, and I'm learning as I go, but how do I know when I should get involved, or when I should let my child handle the issue? We're in 6th grade, we want the children more and more to handle their issues, but at some point when is it that I should get involved? And that's a question y'all would be probably better able to answer than I am.
Well, I think that that's something that you really do have to judge as a parent. I know that when we met early in the year with the teachers, and we met by grade level, and the 6th grade teachers said that one of their goals for 6th grade students is that they learn how to approach the teacher, and that they learn how to ask a good question, not just, I don't get it, but, something that's a little bit more substantive that the teacher can really do something with. And so, I think one of the things, and maybe the first thing that parents can do with their kids is coach the kid in how to approach the teacher and in getting some good questions. And so I think that that's a start. It won't always work, and some kids just aren't ready for that. And in that case, I think it's really helpful for both the parent and the student to talk to the teacher, so that, it takes more time than a phone call, it takes more time than an email, although you can make the emails transparent with the kid. But it's really good, I think, for, the student to see that approach being modeled, and to also be hearing the same thing that the parent is hearing, so it isn't messages passed. So, and now I'm really talking in terms of academics. And I also want to say that there are some times when a private conversation between the teacher and the parent is necessary if there's something going on that, you can imagine. So I'm not trying to say that shouldn't ever happen. So that's the academics. If there are issues like bullying or something like that, certainly encourage the student to tell an adult. But if you don't think that your student will, it's really important that, the parent tell an adult in the building too, because, we don't want that going on, and we don't want it, we don't want to know only if the kid is brave enough to come.
Right, and when I wrote that, I'm sorry, I was thinking about academics,
Yeah,
it didn't even
yeah.
occur to me about, bullying, parents should always be in there, but more academics if they're forgetting to turn in homework or.
Can I make a suggestion? This is a great time to allow your child to suffer some consequences, okay? And to not always rush in and rescue them. If they call you and they forgot their homework, it is not the end of the world. That should not be your responsibility to rush in and bring them their homework. If they forget their lunch, I promise you, we're not gonna let them starve. They can go through the lunch line once. It will not kill them to eat cafeteria food was.
That's pretty good.
It is, we love it.
Some days are especially good.
They make the best taco soup. But I just want you to think about that. Instead of rushing to the rescue, let them suffer those consequences because they're all survivable, right? So think about what are the big things and kind of try and balance. As a parent, I raised 4 children myself, and I think back to times when I should have stepped in maybe, that I didn't know until hindsight. At times when maybe I stepped in and I should have allowed some other things. So, you're gonna second guess yourself all the time. But any of those small things, definitely back off, don't rescue them. This is a great time for them to experience it, they'll survive. And it'll help them grow and know how to handle situations. Because, one of the things we want to build in all of our children is resiliency, right? That's what really determines if you're going to be successful or not, because life is going to throw all kinds of things at you forever and ever, as long as we're in this world. So how do we help our children learn how to bounce back? Well, we start with the small things.
I'll just say, I have one child who has absolutely no problem at all approaching teachers. Will say whatever comes to her mind, advocate for herself quite strongly. And then I have another child who over his dead body won't even raise his hand in class if he didn't understand something that was said. And so that's been more of a struggle for me because he's the second one, because I was like, let me just go talk to the teacher. So we have to have a lot of conversations of, okay, you have a choice. This has to be discussed with the teacher. You can go talk to the teacher, or I can call the teacher. Which would you prefer? And so it's really, for him, a lesser of 2 evils, because he really doesn't want me to do it at all. But it usually has to come to that point of me saying, like, this has to be addressed. Are you going to do it, or am I going to do it? One way or the other, it's going to be addressed. And then we do talk through, like, exactly how are you going to ask that question? What do you, that kind of thing.
How do you get to the point where the kid tells you that there was something they didn't understand in class?
Great speed is your friend.
Yes.
And you are like, why did you get a 0, or why did you get a 50, or why, and they're like, well, I don't know.
what?
And then what happens, it's a lot of asking questions with my son, really. My daughter was an open book and would come home and give me the blow-by-blow, and I wouldn't even be listening half the time. A lot of asking questions, like, so why did you not understand this part of the homework? Well, I didn't, in class this happened and somebody was talking and I didn't hear. Why didn't you raise your hand and ask for me to repeat it? Like,
Leading question.
Yeah.
Well, that is why I use grade. I mean, it's not so like, you didn't make an A on that, but more
Right.
like, wait, what is this 0? And you need to go talk to your teacher about it.
Because sometimes the teachers make a mistake.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
there's a 0 and they're like, they get real indignant real fast. I turned that in. Yeah. Like, okay. Go talk to the teacher about it.
Grade speed is wonderful.
It
It
is.
is not as useful 85 this day, 87 the next day, 90 the next day, 72 the next, not like that. Again, not the grade, but as much as looking at each assignment.
And some
you know.
teachers watch the comments in there, which is really helpful.
Right.
And it's educational for the child too, to see a low grade or a 0, how it affects, I mean, maybe not like the daily, like 85,
Yeah,
but for them to like, oh, I've had a 95 and now I have a 72, what happened? You know?
Right. I'm actually teaching my child to look at it himself,
Yeah.
so
Right.
because he needs to manage
That's
it, and
what
so
they do.
he needs to look through it as well. Did you have a question?
I just want to say, I mean, my son is getting better, but he used to be like I don't want to ask a question of the teacher and da-da-da and all that stuff, but he's finally migrated to like, it feels safer to him to write an email, because then that's not a direct contact. So he has gotten to the point where it's pretty easy for him to write the email and ask the question, because that removes the horrible feeling of being face-to-face. So you could try that.
And it's also
Good
sometimes part of
idea.
my
Good
time.
idea.
So
My
that's a
son
great
has done
idea.
that too, and the teachers are
Great
great about
solution.
responding.
And also staying for office hours on a regular basis helps with that too, because they get a relationship with the teacher, so they're not like, it's not like they're these scary people, they realize that they're actually kind of fun and nice.
There's a comment back there.
Oh, Lindsay,
So,
sorry.
a quick question, not to get too far off, but grade speed. Can you get to it by parent cloud? Is that the same thing? You can check us
Yeah.
out?
Yes.
It's worse, though.
Do they have a way to log on themselves, or do they just need to use our account?
They need to use our accounts, my understanding.
You can
There's
set them all.
actually a student cloud now. There is actually a student cloud, And I'm just starting to learn about it, and I happened to be sitting next to the Lamar principal yesterday, George Llewellyn, and he was telling me he has written directions for it, so he's sending those to me so I can send them out to the teachers. We'll put it in the Hornet Herald for the parents and the students, but they can get to their own email account, they can check their grades, so.
That's nice.
Yeah, AJ's been using
Okay, that's fantastic, yeah, because it really is a resource as much for the kids. I'm gonna move on to our third question, which is a really tough one, and we could have a whole week-long session on it, which is how can I teach my child to manage his time effectively? And I know we as adults have difficulty with that, and that's one of the keys to Keeling, that they're really trying to teach. They don't expect your child to know how to manage their time at sixth grade, but I think they're, I may be wrong, but the goal is for them to learn that, so.
Sure. Well, I know that the sixth grade teachers all got together and they produced I'm trying to see what they called it, an excellent sixth grade adventure. And they were teaching it to the kids. The kids have a copy of it, and I'm sure that they will be happy to share it with their parents. But I know that we also have kids coming in new in seventh grade, and they make a lot of really good suggestions in the letter that, you know, many of you may already know. On A days, students should start their A day homework, not put it off to B day. On B day, they should start their B day homework, so that if there's any questions, they can come to the teacher the next day. They can go to the teacher's office hours or the office hours of a teacher who teaches the same subject at the same grade level. You know, that's really, really important. Another thing that's important is to, you know what your child is doing when he or she is studying, you know, or doing homework. A lot of kids think they can do it all. They can do their homework while they're listening to their iPod, while they're IMing somebody on the computer, while they're playing a game, you know, all those. I mean, there is so much to distract kids these days that it's absolutely mind-boggling. In my day, and when I raised my kid, I mean, it was just a good novel that was distracting and calling to them, and now there's so much more. And so I think it's really important that you know, what works for your student and what doesn't. Oftentimes listening to music is helpful because it helps shut other things out. But, you know, the IMing and all that kind of stuff probably isn't helpful, and it distracts kids from what they're doing. Another thing that the sixth grade teachers talked about is, you know, figuring out with your kid when is a good time to work. I know for me, by the end of the day, I'm fried. I need a little time away from it, and before I get back and be effective. Is that your child, or is your child better off just going full steam and then, you know, after dinner going, I'm done? You know, you have to decide what works for your child in terms of the most effective timing. Another thing that's critical, and that sixth grade teachers talk with the kids about, is keeping that agenda. Knowing what you have to do is the first part of being effective at getting it done. And not only the daily assignments, but also in the agenda there's a calendar. And so long-term projects, it's important to note when those are. And in terms of parent involvement, one thing that can be really helpful with a long-term project is to sit down with your child and look how to break it out. You know, so that they're not, you know, at the end of, you know, it's looking ahead, you know, I have my sound project is due in 6 weeks, and, you know, but not knowing how to take it apart. What are the components of doing the sound project, and mapping out ways to do that. So, you know, those are some, I think, effective things to do for time management.
I'll reiterate what Laura said earlier also, is that sometimes your child will get like a creative assignment, a drawing assignment. Not a problem for my child, he's done in that 5 minutes, but his best friend can spend an hour and a half on it, and it's beautiful. He gets the same grade as my child because that really wasn't what the teacher was looking for. And so a lot of the teachers have started to put on there a time expectation for them. If this should take a half an hour, this should take 45 minutes, and as a parent, it's helpful to know what they are, to know if your child is spending more time than he should, because sometimes that's not what they're looking for.
And another thing that I'm trying to get my sixth grader to do is get the work done, and then over the span of the year, if they want to embellish or do things, like if they can get a good feel for how long the work takes, just basic, get the work done. And then, like, as they move through the year and they have a better feel for that and they're not overwhelmed, then they can say, okay, I want to spend an extra 30 minutes drawing on this, or I want to spend some extra time on this. But I think that for right now, it's more about just figuring out how long it takes to get it done and get it out of the way, so they do have some rest time, because they're tired right now too, I mean, it's an adjustment. So that's one strategy I've had too.
One thing I forgot to mention, by the way, and I'm sorry, is backpacks. Clean them out. Oh my gosh. It really is important for some kids that you go through their backpacks regularly, maybe even weekly, and help them put papers away. Help them get rid of what they don't need to have. Help them get their materials organized so that they can find what they need, because sometimes I've seen kids shuffle through papers for 20 minutes, and that's a real time killer.
Do we have any questions? It looks like we kind of said 3 and 4, because really getting through all the homework is managing your time effectively.
Yeah, one related to 4. Drew Cameron, daughter Claire, 7th grader incoming from another school. Still early in the school year, just trying to judge right now whether the load is about where it's going to be now, or is it still early, it's going to increase. It varies a lot, just trying to understand where things are right now.
It varies.
Yeah.
I just want to ask, I know I was aware of the survey of homework, it's a perennial issue, but are there big projects, major exams reasonably coordinated now so that you don't have 3 tests on one day, 2 big projects?
The teachers are working on making sure that that's coordinated at each grade level. I can't tell you it's going to be perfect, and the fact is, if big projects have had a long time before the date the project was due. So, I think they're trying not to make them do on exactly the same day, but nonetheless, kids have probably had 4, 6, 8 weeks to work on it. So, it's again a matter of time management.
Just one comment, I'm the mom of an 8th grader, I wanted to bring up something I haven't heard people talk about. Some of the kids are involved in activities after school, so in terms of managing time, that adds up to what the kids will be having to work on in terms of planning and when the homework is done and what they have time for. For us and for my kid, he plays soccer, and he's been playing soccer since he was in kindergarten. And it's really important, and it's good, a good outlet. Sometimes that some parents, the reaction when the kids start getting busy is to try to remove some of the activities. I would say if the kid really enjoys that, that's a way for them to build steam, get distracted or whatever, but at the same time you have to guide that. You're gonna be an hour and a half in practice, you need to account that and that you don't have the time you think. But it's also a good outlet. It's hard to do everything, and you cannot do everything. So there might be times where they have to choose, and there might be times that it might become a summer activity instead of an ongoing one. But the important thing is that whatever it is, if it's music, whatever it is, soccer or an art class or whatever, I think it's a really valuable thing that connects them to something that they were doing and that then carries on. So to think about that.
Speaking of after-school activities, my son rides a bus, and
I'm gonna ask y'all to speak up a little bit because I think we have a microphone here and the people, if they do watch, they're gonna wanna hear it.
okay, speaking of after-school activities, my son does ride the bus, and so if there's an after-school activity like practice or something, after that there would be think tank until the bus gets here. There's a perception that that's detention, and I assume that that's shared among children because he got it somewhere. And he said, that's their version of detention. I said, no, it's not. It's a good place for you to be. So, helping the kids, helping get that word out to the kids that that's not punishment would be a good thing.
So what is the thing?
The question is, what is think tank, right?
It's a place, it's a safe place for kids to be between the time, for example, when office hours end. Teachers' office hours end usually at 4 or 4:30. The bus doesn't come, the late bus, until 5:15. And so this is a safe place for kids to go where they can work on their homework and wait for the bus.
And have adult supervision.
Yes.
Is that in the cafeteria?
Yes.
But they can also come to the library too, is that right? During the think tank time, or no? That's
not-
just the after-school time?
Just right after school, Miss Williams has the library open, but she doesn't keep it up until 5:15.
Oh, okay.
That's
So
on
how
her
long is the
workday.
library open?
It just depends on what she has going on, usually till about 4.
Okay.
I guess this is a question for the parents with older kids, but I'm sort of blown away by this band time commitment. And I have a kid that wants to stay in music and do after-school sports. And it feels like we're hitting a crossroads there in terms of having.
Sandra has a child who does both, so.
What grade are they in?
Seventh, and he's a new seventh grader, so he's blown away by everything.
Yeah. It's hard to do both, but my son was in wind ensemble last year. It's a 7th grader, so they do twice a week after school. And then he played football and basketball and ultimate frisbee.
Not every child can do that.
He was crazy. We all paid for it. But they do have sort of a standing agreement with the sports and the band and orchestra and things like that. If you do both, you go and you dress out for football after school and you come back to sectionals or after school band. You stay for 45 minutes and then you leave band early and you go to practice late. And that, it's just.
So it's possible.
It's understood, there's lots of people that do it, and that's what they do. It's like you give up half of each, sort of, and that's what they do, so.
Right, they don't want them to have to make that choice.
Sometimes, like last year it happened that there was a football game the night of a band concert, and, I had to decide for him. So, because that's rough. I think this year they're trying to avoid that. They adjusted something to try to make sure that didn't happen, but you can't account for every possible other activity going on all the time.
Do we have any more questions? Ms. Renfro, Ms. Lowe? I know it's getting late.
I saw a notification that the process for gifted and talented identification is starting. Is there value in doing that for a magnet student?
We do not do anything different for students if they have a gifted and talented label or not. We believe that we can meet their all of the needs of all the kids. No, I don't see any value in doing it for a student in the magnet program.
Is there any value in it beyond the magnet program?
It hasn't seemed that way to me. We went to an elementary school that sort of discouraged any kind of testing for GT, so we never did any of that. And then when my oldest daughter came here for 6th grade, her English teacher right away nominated her. I was like, oh, okay, came home, whatever. And she was labeled, and I got a letter saying she was labeled, and then I've never heard a word again, never heard a thing from Advanced Academic Services, like nothing's ever happened ever again.
Oh, but a lot of people do get the emails. I get the emails.
Well, yes, I went and signed up myself for their little blog, but other than that, I've had absolutely no contact in any way generated from that office to offer me anything or anything that comes with that label.
But that is, by the way, the source of our magnet project.
Right.
What?
Our magnet
I
project.
know at WASA,
But you don't only get that gifted, you get for all the children.
Correct.
Right.
But
So
I
there are
know
some schools that
Yeah.
get an additional funding for it.
The additional funding comes to the magnet.
Right, and what she's saying is there's no differentiation
No.
if you're labeled GT.
No, no,
or not.
no,
Correct.
I know at LASA, she's encouraged, tried to get everyone who is eligible to be labeled, but that's because they're looking at some specific grant opportunities that look at numbers of how many GT kids you have and things like that.
In addition
But it's not meant for
to
them.
the grant opportunities, I know last year AISD was having a conversation about possible future funding for magnet programs based on not the number of children, but the number of GT children. So there was some encouragement to follow through with the GT application process. If and when that was decided, the course to go, I don't know where those discussions are at.
I can follow up on
But that was all part of
I'm on
the
the advanced
future
academic
financing.
committee.
Yeah.
The district, and I hadn't heard that.
I'm gonna keep moving it forward just because we're getting late
Just
here.
on that same subject of GT, does it affect if they decide not to go to LASA, if they want to go to Austin High or Bowie, does GT designation?
Honestly, once you get to high school, what the difference is your AP courses or your IB courses, if it's an IB school, but GT no.
The answer is no. All right, do we have any, just a last few questions?
Not after school.
They come straight here and stay till it closes.
All right, we got one more.
For the experienced parents, how often do you check the teacher sites? How often do you check grade speed? Or you're not on there every day, right?
It depends on your child.
Yeah.
I've got a child with special needs, so.
And the parent.
A lot. Yeah, it depends on the parent and the child.
You can make yourself crazy.
You can, and I have.
I never say.
Yeah, I mean, you
don't, you don't.
yeah,
I look at all my grade triggers.
yeah.
Set the trigger, that's, yeah, you can set that trigger. Yeah, you can set a trigger for a grade. Are you familiar with that? Or movement up or down. And then it'll send you a notification, and then you can go check your grades.
You'll know, I mean, if you're not checking frequently enough, you get in there and you go, whoa, you'll know. And if you're like, whoa, then you'll know that you're good time. All right, I'm gonna end up kind of tie up the questioning section, and then we're gonna go into our meeting, since it looks like we have. Thank you both very much for
Thank
your
you so
involvement in
much.
this. More than welcome to stay, but we do appreciate,
Thank y'all so much.
it's helpful to get this information in the beginning. I'm gonna go real quick, I had some minutes around, I don't know if anyone got a chance, this was from our last meeting. We are trying to write up some of the questions so that people who aren't here can still benefit from it. So, can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Okay, Amy, Laura does, and
I'll second.
Renee seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm gonna move the co-chair and the treasurer's report up real quick, because I wanted to go over a couple of things. First, hopefully everybody has received our fundraising letter. This was sent out at back to school night. If you're not, or if you don't know where it is, we've got plenty more. This raises money for the magnet program. A lot of the things that the magnet program really benefits from our help financially. We send the teachers every year to a professional development. It's an opportunity they wouldn't get otherwise. They go to a national conference and they get some of the best training around, which is great because they're some of the best teachers, and the state training just isn't enough for them. They really need the best, and so we do that. We do buy supplies, and so we would really ask you if you would, if you're able, if you would participate in the fundraiser. Like I said, we're collecting just checks, and this is just one time we'll ask it. And there's a letter right here if you haven't already gotten it. I would ask that you go ahead and pick one up. We're also in need of a secretary. Christina Cooper has offered to be our secretary. She's had some issues.
At least.
Yeah, she's had some issues come up, and it would be really helpful if we could have a co-treasurer. This is somebody who would just step up. Secretary, not treasurer, secretary. And take notes, or you could coordinate Christina about which meetings. If you would be willing to do this, we would be very, very grateful if you could come up and just talk to me afterwards. I would really appreciate it. And I wanted to let you know, McCallum Fine Arts Showcase is on Thursday, September 26th from 7 to 9. Thank you, Sandra, for letting me. I had no idea if your child's interested. We're going to have a high school options, I think, in a month. but McCallum apparently starts really early, and so for those of us who have 8th graders, this is something that it's kind of like the magnet showcase here, where you can go and see what it's all about. So if your child may be interested in fine arts, I would recommend that they go there, and they're an 8th grader. And they can go as a 6th or 7th grader, but if they are interested, that they go ahead and attend this. So those are my things. Do you have anything to add, Amy? No. Okay. Go ahead and give the treasurer report.
Sure, just very quickly, we've already started to have some of the donations rolling. There have been several so far that are for a couple $100. And we're already have a request for funding in order to help a book club.
From the teachers.
From the teachers. So we'll be talking about that today. I don't know if we have other ones that we're going to be reviewing as well, but we're already kind of kicking things into gear and trying to help supply, whether it's supplies or aid with competitions, academic competitions that the school does, and some of the other things that Dan has already spoken about. So we're rolling.
All right. Does anyone have a question for the co-chair or the treasurer?
Quick question about that. One, can we give you a check today?
Of
Okay.
course.
And two, is there a similar fundraising effort for the general school if we wanted, you know?
That's the PTA.
Okay,
PTA
of course they
raises
keep saying
funds.
join the PTA, but is it more than that? Is there something, like a similar no write a check thing?
They do.
Okay,
They
we'll
have
hear
their
about it,
program,
okay.
and you will, and they're there, and that goes spread among the whole school, while this goes specifically to the magnet.
Their online membership usually has like the opportunities there to donate
Okay,
more.
and online.
And
they
they
also
do a
do
big fundraiser in the spring
big
also. They do
fundraiser.
a
Okay.
big.
Encourage
I
everybody
shouldn't
to
want-
attend.
I'm sure we'll hear, I just.
Yes, you will.
There won't be secret fundraiser.
They will.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? I'm gonna move on and go quickly through because I know it's getting late, but the committee reports, the book fair. Is Kendall here? We have, and I do have the flyers. I have the flyers in case you don't have them. But if you haven't bought your child's book, if you go to Book People, we get 20% off your entire purchase, September 8th through September 15th, so it's going on right now. You can head there afterwards.
You don't get 20% off. We get
We
20%.
It's 20% of your purchase goes and gets donated to KMag.
And it isn't just for buying Keeling books. You can buy, if you plan ahead and you buy all your holiday presents, we get that 20% of that.
And they have a table set up on the second floor that says Keeling, and it has all the books right there.
And it's
So
actually really easy. It's very easy because you don't have to worry about whether they have it or not. They have all the Keeling books in stock, and you just go and pick them up. Because if you go to some of the other bookstores, they may or may not have them in stock, and you have to.
I think they ran out of one, but they've already gotten in.
Yeah, they're really very responsive.
And if they're out of the book, they'll order it and give some money.
Can I also tack on that the Blackshear books, if you all saw in the Hornet Herald and the community listserv that we're collecting class sets for Blackshear, you can also buy them there with no tax, tax-free, and the 20% will go, obviously, everything you buy there, 20% will go towards Keeling.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea, yeah. Fundraising, well, we've kind of talked about that. We've had a letter go out. Michelle here, she's done a fantastic job helping us do that. Book club and parent education, we're going to get that started in just a little bit. I think we're all at the beginning of the year. It's just getting crazy. So, do we have a date for the choice fair in the
Yes,
showcase?
but
What are
I
they?
can't remember.
Okay.
The choice fair is either the first or second Saturday in December. It will be at Fulmore, and it will be from 9 to 12, although we get there early to set up. And so, and then the Magnet Showcase here is, I think, and I wish I had the date, sorry, I believe it's the second Thursday in January.
And we have a list of people who have volunteered. If you're interested in it, I've got lists here that we're going to pass on to the people who are coordinating that. And they're going to contact you because they need a lot of parents' support for these programs. Magnet Office and Teacher Support is also, that's just, again, the list that I a lot of y'all have already signed up for. If Ms. Ramberg has a need, all of a sudden she will contact Julie and we'll just send it out and say, hey, does anyone, and fill in the blank. And I have the sign-ups right here, I'll pull them out. If y'all haven't gotten a chance to, I have my charger. Shadowing, Renee, I saw you're here, I don't know that we have she had to step out.
Renee, can I say something? Renee has it sewn together, it is amazing.
See, Miss Ramberger was here 3 years ago before Renee, and there she is.
Well, and it was getting more together every year, but Renee has taken it to a whole new level.
But just an update to mention, we are going to start shadowing on January 27th
Okay.
and go through February 28th, as opposed to going
Into
through
March.
the first week in March.
So we're starting a little earlier.
So we're starting a little early. Yeah,
Um,
because we anticipate more than what we what we had last year, which was 565.
Okay. A new parent reception, I think we're still looking for someone. I haven't actually gone through there to see. I've got a few names, and if you put your name on there, I'll go ahead and be contacting you. And those are all our committee reports. Does anyone have any questions? These are all the things that KMag does. When people ask, what does KMag do? We do all of that.
Can I ask something unrelated to a committee report? We have some friends who, they have a son who decided not to apply to Keeling, and he's waffling now because his friends came here for 6th grade. And I've heard some people say that it's really, really hard to come in 7th grade without having that 6th grade year to sort of slowly ramp you into the situation. And I just was wondering if anybody could add insight to that had kids that did that and how.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a 7th grader.
Yeah.
Can you raise your hand if you have a 7th grader, incoming 7th grader, just so we've got a couple of them. All right, go ahead.
Well, I would add that for my daughter, it's early, and my other daughter came in 6th grade, so I don't have the personal experience, but there are lots of kids who come in 7th grade from our elementary school leave because they have a 6th grade, there are others, Bradford Woods, and so it's a pretty normal thing. And I think it's maybe a little hard at the beginning because they're getting used to it, but they do a great job. They bring you here for a special couple of days before the school starts to, really have a more,
More intensive.
yeah, more intensive orientation, there you go. And I've never heard of anyone having problems.
Okay,
None of
good.
the people who I know, so it's definitely fine.
Except for what you learned from Smita. That's the only thing.
You don't get to have SME.
That's the big thing people always talk about.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't remember offhand the exact stats either, but I think last year it was like 330 some odd 6th graders and roughly 40 7th graders and 8 or 9 8th graders that came in. So just
I have both. I have a 6th grader coming in and a new 7th grader.
Oh, wow.
I'd say that it's way more intense for the 7th
Yeah.
grader. Way more intense.
In general, 7th grade, I think it's much
Yeah.
more intensive than 6th grade
I
in
feel like I've thrown
general.
him in the deep end. He is trying to do 7th grade algebra, which is adding a whole other, and we're flailing with that right now, and it's, he loves his algebra teacher, and he does not want to let that go, and so we're having this sort of values-based choice where it's sort of like, do I compromise, does he get a less than perfect grade and have a deeply engaged learning experience with a great teacher, or do we take our ball and go home and wait another year for algebra? So we're giving it 6 weeks to make that decision, but it's.
And algebra, I think a lot of the kids going into algebra, whether or not it's their first year or not, but we have one of the best algebra teachers here. If you have any questions, because we went through that all last year and are really glad that we took it
See, and
here
I'm
because she's fantastic.
And I'm starting to, it's causing me to reconsider my approach because it's sort of like, is a less than perfect grade with her a better thing to take into your future than a perfect grade with a less?
You can come
awesome
and talk to me,
teacher.
because I can pass on some of the things that we learned through that last year, because it is a big decision, but
She also told us on back to school night that they've changed the curriculum, and some Algebra 2 curriculum has traveled into Algebra 1, and that they're starting with some of that. So that made me feel better, because it's been intense.
The algebra at Keeling is really hard. It's different than the algebra that we took. It's a special class.
But things are also going to, Ms. Hill is going to start working with a new approach, which she's really excited about. After the first 6 weeks, she's going to flip her classes, which is really, really exciting. What that means is that instead of the homework that kids usually do to practice, oftentimes the traditional classes, you sit in class, you get your instruction, then your homework is practice. She is going to make do the instruction on a video so that the kids can watch that to prepare for class, and then in class, they'll do the practice and she'll be there to guide it.
I've watched one of her videos and they're amazing.
I could have learned algebra really well, I think, if I had
I might
had
take that.
that kind of, yeah.
They talked last year about starting some of these,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited that they're doing
I
that.
think so too.
I think one of the most frustrating things about any of the homework, but something like algebra in particular, is when they come home and they're struggling with the problems, and how long ago did I take algebra? And it was not that. Didn't look like that. And so it makes a lot more sense to me that they're actually doing the work in class where the person who can help them is there.
Brilliant.
I mean, that's the thing I've found with algebra. I'm an engineer, 4 years of intense math, and they're doing things that we didn't do through multiple calculus and fractals and stuff. It's like, okay, before I can help you, can you give me 10 minutes? So I can go to Ms. Hill's website and understand what this is about, and then I can help you. But you gotta let me learn.
We often need a lead time to go.
Do I get a grade too?
Yes.
You said after 6 weeks she's doing the flip. Do you know that next year is she going to start the flip from the beginning, or is it?
Well, all right, I don't know whether, but I think she really wants time to
Figure it out.
establish some, well, she needs to
Oh.
figure out and see how it works, so this is really an experiment, but it's also, I think she needs some time to establish with the kids what the expectations are, what the practice is, and so I'm not sure that she would just start out with that.
But for
Okay.
any teacher who would start doing that, she is the perfect one to experiment it, because she's just amazing.
I just wanted to add to any of the either 7th or 6th parents whose kids are struggling or they're reevaluating coming to Keeling. We had a 7th grader come in and he was dealing with repatriating on top of, so he had social issues and academic issues, and it was invaluable meeting with the counselor. The counselor made all the difference in the world and really adjusted his attitude 180 to where he's had a bad loose ear and went on to recruit for magnets and is like a poster child for magnets. So they can get there. And the second part of that is we got called in for a meeting with the counselor for educate the parents. We thought we were educating our child, but it turned out we were being educated, and that was also invaluable. So don't just think about meeting with the directors, also consider meeting with the counselors.
Yeah, and the council, like I said, I think in 2 weeks we're going to have the counselors here, which will be a great chance for you to meet them, and then to get to know them, because they really are extremely helpful. Okay. I'm going to move on. Is Susan right here? Susan is going to give our PTA report.
I think the main thing we talked about is to make sure, and I think somebody over there asked a question about PTA too. So PTA funds the entire school, all the programs, the arts and music, band. So it's, I think the minimum membership is just $8 to join, and you get, and obviously going up, and then you get a directory, student directory for that, so you can contact friends. That's all we have. We also have some positions available if you want to participate. We have a website at KMagPTA.org.
Laura, did you want to mention
To add a little
Saturday?
bit, just to flesh out a little bit about all the different things. So we have, there's different chair positions. One is membership and outreach. And so all under that is communication, like we do that every week. You get the Hornet Herald, that's all done through PTA. The website, that you just spoke of, the directory. There's also a new student liaison. Tutu has been that person. We have a legislative person who helps coordinate, like last year it was really important. So then there's also Buildings and Grounds Committee, which I do, and I hope you guys have all seen about this Saturday and Sunday, the Permablitz that's going to be happening. So there's gardens that we have on the west side of school, and there's going to be adding, Permaculture Guild is going to be coming, and they're donating time, and we're paying part of it too. But we're going to be having more gardens. Eagle Scouts are building an orchard. All these exciting things are happening, and we're hoping to be able to eventually have actually like a little farmer's market type thing that happens here. And we already have, last year we gave teachers tons and tons of produce. So it's a wonderful thing that's turned into a class now, that they have a a gardening class that's through the STAR side, and hopefully it'll be open to everybody eventually. And they did it through advisory last year, the 2 advisories, a STAR and a magnet advisory did the gardening. Then we also have, besides building and grounds and communications, we have programming. So, and we are looking for a programming person. The programs we do are 8th grade celebrations, so the last day of school, your 8th graders go to Shady Springs Party Barn and have a big day of everything from swimming to eating, fun food and playing games and all kinds of cool things. The Reflections Arts and Education program, which she mentioned, we're looking for somebody for that. We're actually looking for 8th grade celebration person too. Healing Men, we run a program that's a mentoring program. Dads and grandparents and uncles and come. We have wellness coordination, like the CATCH program, the coordinated approach to children's health. We do some wellness programming. The tips, did you guys see in the Hornet Herald, the healthy tips, we do that. The teacher staff appreciation, so the day before school started, there was a big luncheon, and then there's also, I don't know if you guys have heard about that, there's gonna be where you can adopt a teacher for Secret Pals, and we do that. And so, and then, throughout the year doing teacher appreciation things like Julie Pastor, who heads that up, will be providing breakfast for them and then lunch for them at a big holiday party, and we solicit gift cards. We can't give through PTA gift cards, but we get everybody to donate them so that we can pass them out to the teachers. Just kind of showering our teachers with love, And we also give grants to the teachers. We're giving more and more as we have more money, but because KMag funds the magnet program, she mentioned, Susan mentioned that we help with band and orchestra and stuff. It's not that we do that, we don't do that unless they ask us to. So they ask for money, like if we need scholarships or things like that. We also do the fundraising aspect is the last committee. We have a grants person, we have the no cost, like collecting box tops and all that kind of, stuff that's, you don't have to, Randall's, you'll hear more about that as the year goes on. We sell the merchandise, the spirit wear. We have dances. So we do need people to help us. Openings are in merchandise and dances. And the big one is Keeling Center Stage. So that we started 2 years ago, so this will be our 3rd annual Keeling Center Stage for those of you who've gone before. That was partly thanks to Amy helping us learn about it from Lee Elementary because they do Lee Live. And it's this big night that's fun. It's in April this year, going to be hopefully where we, bands and music, and it's all for just adults and fun food and all that. And last year we raised nearly, it was like $25,000. And the year before that, it was like $15,000. So hopefully this year will be even more, an auction and all that. We have the people to do the auction. We don't have anybody to actually head up the Keeling Center Stage party part. So we're looking for someone who might be interested. And that's it. Sorry, that's so long.
So especially if you are an event planner, if you know an event planner, that's the type of person who'd be just excellent at doing that Keeling Center Stage, right?
So catch Laura after this meeting and talk to her.
Yeah,
Right. And I would encourage everyone to become a member of the PTA. It really supports our school and it supports education in just universally in our state and our nation. Does anyone have any questions? At this point, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn. I want to just reiterate, the KMag meetings, they're for the magnet. We provided fundraising. We provide volunteers. We really need the volunteers. And we also provide these informational meetings. If you have an idea, if this isn't meeting your needs or you have a different need, I would just ask that you come and talk to me, and we would love to see if we can meet whatever need that you have, because that is our goal, is to educate and provide answers for all the questions and help for you as parents. So please come up to me and give me your feedback. I would appreciate that.
Can I make one other clarification about PTA and KMag? I just realized. So Susan mentioned music, and I realized Kristen Nifton, who's the vice president of the PTA, wanted us to make it clear to everybody here that most of band and orchestra are magnet students. And the goal is to hopefully have more neighborhood students be involved. So if that's a passion for you, that would be something that we would love to talk with you further to help us in that endeavor. Reaching out to the elementaries here. We have people who, you wouldn't have to head it up, but if you want to help with it, we would love your help. Thanks, Sal.
That's okay. All right, does anyone have any other questions? No, we got one from Christina in the back.
I just wanted to say that I don't see Amy right here, so I just want to say.
Did you want to?
Well, AAMA, if you're not familiar with it, stands for Advanced Academics and Magnet Advocacy. I've been a rep in the past, so if anybody has questions, you can see me after.
Okay. All right, well, adjourned. Thank you all very much for attending.
Thank you.